Thanks for joining us for the Long Island Sound podcast. Each week we explore new music and dive deeper with the artists and their stories behind the music. Please subscribe and rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. Here's your host, Steve Yusko.
You're really going to enjoy today's episode. I speak with George Barry. Not only is he a singer-songwriter, he gigs all around Long Island from Manhattan to Montauk, but we get fantastic insights from a singer-songwriter on the music industry, and George does not hold back. Let's listen to his song, When I See You.
If there's anything that I can do for you, I'll be right here with a heart that's true. 'Cause when I see you, I smile. Feels so good for a while. I feel free to the sky, and I never question why. When I see you, if there's anything in this world I ever knew, it's just there's just no getting over you. It's true, 'cause when I see you, I smile. Feels so good for a while. When I feel free to the sky, I never question why. When I see you, don't it seem like sometimes friends are few? But we'll be alright 'cause you got me and I got you. It's true, I smile and I feel so good for a while. I feel free to the sky, and I never question why. When I see you, when I see you, when I see you, I smile. It feels so good for a while. I feel free to the sky, and I never question why. I see you, I smile. It feels so good for a while. I feel free to the sky, and I never question why. When I see you.
Hey everybody, I am so excited about my guest today. He's played from Manhattan to Montauk, resides out east. We found each other on the internet, and I really want to jump into his music. He's a fantastic guitarist and a great songwriter as well. So I want to welcome George Barry to the Long Island Sound podcast. George, welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So to give everybody the backstory, after some technical difficulties, we finally got this thing going. So, hey, shit happens, right? George, I want to ask you this. I tell you, I'm really enamored by people who've woodshedded their craft, who've written songs. Tell me how it all began for you as far as picking up the instrument. And then at what point did you find out, hey, I can write music and I want to write music?
I came up in the era of watching my brother, who was playing music before me. And so
Okay.
I'm like 6 years old, and I see my brother playing guitar in the basement with 4 other guys. One of my first memories ever is of the little red light on an amplifier glowing, and that sweet music. And it just lit a fire inside of me. I must have been 5, 6 years old. I never forgot that.
Wow.
And then as I grew 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, it was just all part of my life, 360 degrees. And I wanted to be a part of it. And I love those songs, and they were not foreign to me. They were in my soul, a part of me. And so to me,
Right.
as soon as I could, I learned guitar, and then as soon as I could, well, let me write my songs, and then just started from there.
It's great. What I'm amazed at is when you get these little seeds of inspiration from family members with music, and then you roll into your teen years where you can get obsessed in a good way about something. Man, it really just makes for really great artists, from my experience,
Yeah, I blame the Beatles, because my brother saw the Beatles on television, and that lit the fire in him, and then I saw him,
Right.
that lit the fire in me.
Excellent. Yeah, two of the top inspirations of anyone that I've talked to of a certain age, to be honest with you, it's either Elvis or the Beatles, and it's usually the Ed Sullivan program that really, blew their mind as far as what the hell music could be for them. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and for me, it lit the fire in every possible direction. I not only wanted to understand the songs, I wanted to understand the artists.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to understand what those artists were responding to, their times that they lived in, what they were writing about. And still to this day, I have a library of books at home. A lot of them are no longer published, about the canon of pop music and rock music. I mean, I went into this 360 degrees, every rabbit hole I went down. I just love every aspect of it.
Yeah, so I would put you, George, in the category of a true music aficionado. I've been accused of it, and I reject that because I'm a real shallow, small-brained guy, and I love talking to people who really know their shit about music, whether it's the background of musicians, and that's what's kind of it really became a seed of curiosity for me with the podcast is when I would go out and see, we always search for live music, and when we went out, I always had this little curiosity of, well, what's that person's story? Why do they do this? How do they do this? And, I really got an appreciation for the hours of work that go into a performance, whether it's a 2, 3, or 4 hour performance. There's thousands of hours that kind of back that up. And I'm sure you're that type of musician as
I can't turn off. I absolutely love it. At one point in my life, I was working a job from 1 p.m. till 9 p.m. When I came home from work, I would put these sheets up in my windows to block out the light and the sound, and I would start recording sometime around 10 p.m. at night. And then when I take the sheets down, often it was the next day, 12 noon the next day. No sleep, just went straight through, recorded something, mixed, mastered, the whole thing. I can't turn it off. And the same thing when it comes to understanding who was on what session, what those lyrics were about. What were the lyrics really? Not what the publisher said they were. What did the actual singers say? Why did they say that? I love the whole canon of it. I've been offered to do a show on rock history and stuff like that, but I don't have as much interest in that. I really much rather carry the torch forward with original music.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'll be 62 this July, and one of the things and this happened during COVID, in having conversations with other people about music, I found my age group, my peers, kind of reminiscing about the 70s, which is great music, obviously, Laurel Canyon, the whole 9 yards, Neil Young. But then I said, you know what, it can get kind of stale. And I listened to WFUV, the Fordham station, which I think kind of broadened my
Great
horizon
station.
on, what's out there, And then WSB in Stony Brook is a big proponent of original music and local stuff. And man, I'll sing the gospel of original music all day long because that keeps us fresh and keeps us grounded in what's happening around us. What I think.
Oh, I think it's essential. And if you're going to pick up if you're going to do original music, if you're an artist, hopefully you've also studied the people who came before you, so that you understand that you're putting art into a place where it's part of a canon. There's before, there's now, and then this is what will come later. And if you're smart, you're writing to that. And the best material, in my opinion, writes to that. It writes to that.
Understood.
So that,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's already been done. So study from the best. Study the Beatles, study Elvis, study the Stones, study whatever it is that inspires you. Learn from it and bring it forward. There's no point doing exactly what's been done before. There's absolutely no point in that. It's been done. It's probably been done better. It's certainly fresher. So now the responsibility for anybody coming up is, how do I take that forward? How do I take, and this is a big challenge.
Sure.
And anybody that wants to participate has my utmost respect, because it is a serious challenge. But those bands that just only want to do what's been before, I mean, they know it to themselves. They're not using their gifts for the greater good.
Right.
I don't want to name tribute bands by name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly. And you know what? There is certainly they mastered their craft to emulate the artist in ways that kind of blow my mind. But then there is that taking that leap into the well and exploring your own creativity and nuance and how to proceed from
That
that.
takes courage. That takes courage. A lot more courage.
It takes balls.
And it takes money. You're putting your own money up. I mean, I was offered a role in Beatlemania years ago. You know. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
we need a Paul. That's what they came. Oh, we need a Paul. We've heard you be an excellent Paul. And when I was younger, I looked a little bit more like Paul McCartney. And the further I went into the discussion of whether I would be on Broadway in Beatlemania, the more, George, we like you, but you're going to have to talk like Paul, even when you're off stage. And you need to get your hair cut more like Paul. And you need to use the same instruments Paul used. And you're going to have to learn how to play left-handed, because he's a lefty. And I started to realize the creativity was getting more and more and more pigeonholed. Talk like Paul, sing like Paul, act like Paul. And I love Paul McCartney. I mean, I mentor under him.
Right.
He's Sir Paul. To me, there's no one higher, really. But would I want to impersonate him? I would not want to impersonate him. It's like being Rich Little, if anybody remembers who Rich Little, the impersonator, was.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, but Rich Little,
He's on everything.
but it would be like being Rich Little, but you're only allowed to do one impersonation, and you must do it for the rest of your life.
Right.
That's not art.
I remember he did Nixon, and I remember that, and I can remember the 5 impressions that he did, but
Sure.
It is a narrow guideline where you go. But I want to take the question in another direction, because you sparked my interest in the fact that you do your own recording, and that's another discipline and another way to train your ear to pick out different things. Tell me how you got into that.
Oh, geez. I came along.
Throwing you curveballs here, aren't I?
No, it's just how many hours do we have? So I'll try to make it really short for you people out there, because I know not everybody wants to go down these rabbit holes. Most people just want the song, But what happens when you're a musician and you learn to play your guitar and you wrote your song is you find out pretty quickly that, like, just hitting record button, it doesn't sound at all as cool as you thought it was going to be. So then you start, you don't realize it, but you're going down the rabbit hole of recording engineering. And pretty soon, you learn what microphones record a voice really well. This is a Shure SM7B. I believe you have one as well, I think.
Yep, same well.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
Industry standard. What headphones work best for listening to what you're doing. And next thing you know, like me, I started recording seriously. Somewhere in the 80s. I remember, going into Power Station Studios in Manhattan to do mix downs. There was a guy there, used to empty the ashtrays. John was his name. No one ever thought anything would.
Okay.
John wanted to be a musician, but he was just emptying the ashtrays because his cousin owned the studio, Power Station. John, we didn't know what would become of John. We were there busy doing mixes. We heard a couple of years later he got signed to a label, and then his professional name was John Bon Jovi.
Oh, you're kidding me. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, and Tony Bon Jovi owned the studio. That's how he got the job.
Oh, wow.
Or he wouldn't have had a job.
That's amazing.
He knew somebody, so they gave him the job cleaning toilets and emptying ashtrays. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for John Bon Jovi and everything he's doing, because I know that guy came from the lowest possible position and made it.
That's dedication and putting yourself in the right fertile field for the potential to move in that direction. Hey, I'd be remiss if we didn't jump and talk about the first song that our audience heard before the podcast, before we joined each other, which was When I See You. Tell me, I never asked, by the way, just as a precursor to this, I never ask a artist, what's that song about? Because I love when the audience can make it their own and tie it to their story. But I'm curious about, in this particular song, how the muse came to you, when the song was developed, and when you released it.
I was going to be doing some press some time ago, and they said, Saturday, you're going to be doing the interview. And I said to myself, well, I don't have anything new. I should sit down and see if I can write something and record it that week. So I sat down in a chair, and it was this summer. And it was one of those days this summer where the sun came out, and it was early spring, you know. And as the sun came out, it was a beautiful day, and I just hit these 4 chords on the guitar. And it was all there. I heard it all in those 4 chords. And all that I had to do was not get in the way. So I just went inside myself, what are the words? And I wrote them down. And what's the next chord? Okay. And I just teased it out like that. And when I was done, I looked at it and I said, what exactly am I writing about? You know, I thought of it. Now I was rational, and I looked at the lyrics and I said, oh, wow, it's the first song I've ever written about my wife. This is the very first song. It's written about my wife, but it's truly anybody who loves anybody knows what it's like when they see that person, that they don't question it.
Right.
And they don't feel anything negative about it.
Nice. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Hey, let's do this, George. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm really interested in if we can expand on your influences and who you admire today as a singer-songwriter or a performer. Hey, everybody, we'll be back with George Barry. Stick with us. We've got a lot more to come.
Are you ready to groove to the rhythm of Long Island's music scene? The Long Island Sound Podcast invites you on a melodic journey through the talented musicians and thriving venues that keep the island rocking. Get your front row seat by subscribing to the Long Island Sound Podcast on gigdestiny.com. Let the music ignite your soul. Find us wherever you stream your podcast.
We are back, and I don't know why I say we are back, because you know we're back because you can actually hear us. So I'm with George Barry. I'm going to call George a music aficionado because he's gone pretty deep on stuff. And George, before the break, I asked you to think about your influences in the past that kind of driven your music and people that you admire today. So tell me what you got.
My core is coming from a writing perspective, is writing songs. So Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, probably the highest influence to me. John Lennon, of course, you know, the Beatles' work, Harrison as well, can't be denied. After that, further modifications in understanding composition, Wang Chung, which is Jack Hughes and Nick Feldman, brilliant writers, highly undervalued. Leonard Bernstein, West Side Story in particular. After that, you know, it's like anybody that applies themselves to the craft and comes up with the goods, utmost respect, you know, and that comes back to taking chances, being brave, like Bernstein in Maria uses an interval of a flat fifth in the melody. Maria,
right.
That interval, that's very brave. The church outlawed that pitch. You weren't allowed to do that for hundreds of years. And Leonard Bernstein uses it to describe a woman named Maria, who is basically the beautiful virgin. Like Maria, like Mary.
Right, of course.
He's taking chances there, and there's a good chance some people would have rejected it. But Bernstein does it so well, so effectively, we all find it beautiful. So,
wow, thanks for pointing out that nuance.
Sure.
Yeah, see, one of the people on my list would be Tom Petty. I've gotten a more deeper appreciation of Tom, and his simple lyrics that linger with you and help tell a story, and let you go on your own journey.
Tom Petty's an influence to me as well. I wrote a song during the pandemic, and it was very influenced by Tom. You know, I've always liked Tom's simplicity, and that he knew what Beethoven knew, which is simplicity equals power. Simplicity equals power, which is why the lead motifs, the lead motives in Beethoven are like 4 notes. Da, 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 4 notes.
Right.
Very powerful. AC/DC knows this as well.
Right, exactly.
3 chords, no waiting. And so Petty's strength is brevity and not getting in the way of something strong. And during pandemic, I wrote a song and basically was sort of my appreciation of Tom.
Yeah, and throw Mike Campbell in with lead riffs coming in that just accent. He named that tune. You can hear Mike Campbell and the tune going into it.
Yeah.
Now you brought up the pandemic. How being a performer and now getting hit with the inability to perform in front of a live audience, for a period of time. How did you deal with that? How did it affect your creativity during quarantine?
Well, I'm going to quote Winston Churchill here when I say it sucked.
As he sips his brandy.
Yes,
yeah.
Cheers. It absolutely sucked. I love playing live, and I love the connection that I have with the audience, and I seem to do very well with audiences. And it was a terrible disruption. We kept the troops, the audience, together by doing online broadcasts.
Oh, great. Good.
And I would play anything. I have a guitar in my hand, and I take whatever requests. And we raised money for animal causes because me and my wife are big on that. In fact, this year I'm playing a benefit for Last Chance Animal Rescue. I'm playing another benefit for the Save the Animals Rescue, which is known as Star Foundation.
Excellent.
We kept hopes high and spirits high by keeping everybody together, and we would drink wine and we would do pairings and play songs.
Okay.
So we would do these crazy pairings, like my friends at Puglisi Vineyard sent a case of wine, and we would pair Chardonnay with Twinkies, and and then we take requests, and we kept everybody listening and sometimes donating to a good cause. And we did that for a number of weeks, and that's how we got through it. And then as soon as we got back with the audiences. And it was very guarded at first. And so the first song I came back on was an original song I played out live. I referred to it earlier, and it's called The State I'm In.
Okay.
And the first line, how are you? How you been? Don't mind me in the state I'm in. Nice, and that was my appreciation of Tom Petty, who was so good at plain talking and hitting the point right on the head.
Right. The other thing, it's and I have a question and a comment. First, the comment, as far as maybe it's bad to do this, but I put people play or people perform in different categories. There are musicians who do well at what they do, and then there are, I think, a whole different category of what I would say true entertainer performers who have that ability to make that connection with whatever audience they're put in front of. And I find great satisfaction when I'm watching somebody live, when I feel like they're inviting me into their room, into their world. And it could be conversation, it could be a lot of different things. But I think that's a true art and a true skill to learn as well.
That's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm always trying to achieve that. When I'm writing, I'm trying to bring across the divine into the song. When I'm performing, I'm trying to bring divinity into the room. I know this is heavy, kids. I don't mean to upset anybody. And I'm not getting religious with you.
No, it's all good.
I'm not trying to get religious with anybody, but, Beethoven himself said, music is the highest language, the incorporeal entrance to the divine. And what I feel is that if we get it right, like the Beatles, then there's no arguments. People see each other in each other's eyes, and we're peaceful, and we're relaxed, and we understand we're all in this together. We'll have hope and love, and we get along good, actually. It takes the right songs. It takes the right approach. It takes tending to that. It's not automatic. A lot of things can throw off the energy and the vibe in the room and stuff like that. But when I'm playing live, the songs I pick, the way I go about them, if I need to say something in between songs, I'm going to do that to help usher along the experience. I'm there for it, too. I mean, if we get it right, I'm happy, too. It's not about me. I'm just helping to, or trying to help it bring into life.
Yeah, and springboarding off of that, I found myself in watching bands, and then I'm going to ask you about the makeup of when you go live as far as who you play with and what have you. But I've looked to learn the cues or watch the cues between the musicians. Like, okay, you take that lead, and some is real nuanced. I think that's great. But the other thing I spot is when someone is so joyful in their playing, you feel that energy or that divinity, if you want to put it that way, reach out into the audience. And I've seen that a few times where I go, wow, this is really, what a joyous occasion that I'm experiencing as members of the audience. So having said that, what's the makeup of your band when you go out play live? So mostly solo or in a duo, or how do you approach your live music?
Over the years, I've done it pretty much every possible way. And
okay.
These days, depending upon budget, it'll be me acoustic by myself. It'll be a duo, sometimes trio or four-piece.
Okay.
Because I've spent so many years recording, and I've even done music for motion picture. I've done music for television. I've done music for horse ballet, as well as all the rock and pop stuff, which is my core. I've done so much that I can configure myself any which way to get it done. And I have a Rolodex. I have a whole list of people, sidemen, that for a particular gig, I'm going to call this guy. For a different gig, I'm going to call that guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I actually know what a Rolodex is. So for the kids in the audience, we used to have cards that would flip in a carousel that would have people's names and phone numbers, and you valued your Rolodex tremendously.
It's all on the phone now. I have my list of people. If I need somebody, it's right in there.
Nice. Hey, let's talk about the other song, one of the other songs you brought to the table called She's Stunning. Tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll jump in and let the audience hear it.
Oh, She's Stunning is for Kira. Kira was a very special dog that me and my wife adopted some time ago. And the moment that I saw her picture online, I knew that we had to have this dog, which is so weird because I don't normally feel that way when I see a picture of a dog. And we've done so many rescues over the years, dogs, cats, horses, you name it, a wolf, every kind of thing, a bat. We've done all this involvement with animal rescue. And for some reason, when I saw this picture of Kira, it just spoke to my soul. And I said, my God, she's stunning.
Nice.
And I sat down with the guitar, and all of a sudden, there it was.
It came through you, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, so let's listen to She's Stunning for Kira, and we'll be right back after the song. Hang with us, everybody. Check this out.
5 o'clock on the hour hand. Couldn't keep me here for all the tea in Thailand. Sitting here, but I gotta go to where she is. It's never too far to go. When I think about her eyes looking back at me, I keep thinking this is some kind of destiny. She's stunning, out on my way, I'm running, and I'm changing my ways. I'm gunning, hoping she stays. She's stunning, and I'm fixed by her gaze. City lights and the clearest skies, I'm shown by the look in her eyes. It's a shame such a scenic view means nothing, cause I can't take my eyes off you. When I think about her eyes looking back at me, I keep thinking this is some kind of destiny. She's stunning, out on my way, I'm running, and I'm changing my ways. I'm gunning, hoping she stays. She's stunning, and I'm fixed by her gaze. They say every fire starts with a little spark. I should know about that, cause there's a fire in my heart.
What a beautiful song. It was really great to hear that, George. Hey, between the break, while we're listening to that song, or you were listening to the song, we're going to jump into a couple of subjects. And let's start with a tough one first. Tell me about your thoughts about money and the music industry and the direction things are heading in. Because I'll say this, it's freaking tough for musicians. And it seems as though with the upside down world of music production that making money off of streams is unless you hit the golden rainbow for, is tough, and you're selling merch and everything else. So give me your take on that.
I've gone down the rabbit hole on this pretty good. I mean, I'm not the expert, but
Okay.
I've spent enough time on it where I can tell you that you folks listening, if you get most of your music through streaming, you're not supporting these artists. You're not. Taylor Swift is not getting
Agreed.
anything significant by you listening to her on Spotify. And if you're listening on Apple or Amazon, any of their streaming services, you're not supporting those artists. Those artists they have the ability to make that music for you from money that comes from something else, okay? And how does that relate to our smaller artists? Well, what it means is that, we're all generally self-funded because streaming services don't pay. Spotify, to give one example, pays 0.034 cents per stream. What that means is it's far less than even 1 penny for the use of our content. So if you're listening to streaming services to get you music, people, please consider finding other ways to listen to music. There's lots of online services, and you should continue to listen to this specific channel because, he's going to tell you where to go. It's always in development, and there's all kinds of cool places to go that are not streaming. But those things are not supporting new music. And if you're somebody that said, where is all the good new music? New music sucks. The reason is, in my opinion, is because with so little funding, no one can afford to make good new music. It's difficult,
Right.
Okay? When you hear Bohemian Rhapsody, that was the product of 4 people, 4 musicians, and 6 months, and they didn't have to worry about where the lunch money was going to come from. They were on a big recording
Sure.
label, okay? That was then. Now, recording labels only really exist in name now. They're really just labels. They're just brands. There are no big contracts and giant remunerations. All that stuff that's the razzmatazz of show business, folks. The truth of the matter
Right.
is that there's very little money in streaming. So people that are making money through endorsements and live performance, which is one of the reasons why I play out so much, because that's where most of
Right.
my bread and butter comes from.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, George, because even when I've spoken to other artists, the way they're making is doing festivals and gigging out, as much as they can. That's why everyone suffered during quarantine. And they're selling merch, just, and doing CDs, and nobody has a CD player anymore. I mean, go in that direction.
It is so important if you want to support the artists to support them directly through their website. Mine is georgeabarry.net, and if you go there, you can purchase a download for $1. That's over 100 times more funding to me than I'll ever get from Spotify or Amazon or Apple. I mean, they do a thing, and that's cool, okay? But they're not keeping these lights lit. They're not at all keeping these lights lit.
Yep.
And, so I appreciate anybody that purchased the download. I want to thank you here and now. Anybody that comes to the live show, I want to thank you here and now. And I think I can say for all independent artists that are not getting funding from some other place, we all thank you so much. We know you're the people that help us to be able to do this art.
Right. And, to kind of bookend at least this particular topic, the way I look at it through analogy, there are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there, particularly, and let's talk about, the streaming services that you're going to find this podcast. Same thing. We talk that micro penny thing is not real. And then, I've heard horror stories about, and I'm not a promoter by any, except promoting local talent for no money, which that's okay for me. But there are promoters over the years. I'll give you an example, and you tell me if I'm off base with this. They'll go to the artist and say, "Well, what do you get?" "Well, I get 100, whatever a man, for the band to put together." Instead of being true to the venue that they pitch you to, Some will say, I take a percentage of whatever we can get from the venue. Others, I've heard horror stories of upsell you so much and put a lot of dough in their pocket and not be true to the artist. So maybe that's true. I don't know. I know that's historically true.
You know what they say, right? In Lao Tzu, the Asian philosophy, he who knows does not talk.
Okay.
He who talks does not know. And that's very true.
Oh, wait a second.
That's kind of how it is.
You're right.
That's how it is with the money in the business. Yeah, let me just remove that facade for you people who may not know that. People don't talk money. You know, Tom Petty used to stand next to Bob Dylan and talk about how much they make. All of this stuff, I mean, as far as I know. And I go down these rabbit holes all the time. Money is taboo to speak of in a lot of environments. And certainly as it relates to art, you can pay a lot of money and not get a whole lot of art. There's a lot of people who are phenomenal who are playing for free right down the street right now in your neighborhood.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of this show. You turn people on to the local art, some of the great artists that have been around. I mean, Long Island has produced Pat Benatar, Billy Joel, Eddie Murphy, on and on and on. Eddie Money, who never gets enough credit. Right. Eddie Money's daughter now, Jessie Money, is out there pounding the streets. She's doing a kick-ass job. You know, keep going, Jessie. You're doing great.
Yep. In fact, Eddie Money was known as Eddie Mahoney from Island Trees.
Absolutely. Eddie, he was a cop. You know? And he got into the industry when the contracts were enough to feed you. And he got onto the CBS label, and it worked out for him. Now, Jessie's in a whole different situation because the streaming and all that kind of stuff. So she's making it like I'm making it, which is, you know, you're playing festivals for motorcycle clubs. You know, she's going to Sturgis. She's going to Arizona. She's playing, you know. Me, I'm doing almost every weekend at a restaurant or a vineyard or a bar, wherever that they want me.
Sure. So let's do this. Let's take a turn into the music scene itself. Let's dig ourselves out of the rabbit hole of the money in music, and tell me about your take on the music scene and how you see it. And if I was right, I said you're pretty much on the East End as far as physically out there. Which, for those who don't know Long Island, we really, over the past couple of decades, have been grown no pun intended, a really great wine and vineyard places out on the North Fork, and they're really great prominence, and they support local music, which is great. So, give me your take on that, George.
You know, historically, New York has been a great place for the arts and music and dance and Broadway and everything. At the end of the 80s, you know, things kind of got shattered into little pieces and reformed many years later, now with little independent, smaller scenes that are vital and quite alive, but in small segments. So the vineyard scene is its own world. And for artists like me, I can play cover songs and a little bit of originals in environments that are about quality, not loud.
Okay.
It's not all about volume. It's about quality. And an audience that's maybe a little bit older, certainly a whole lot wiser. And they want quality, and they'll come out and they'll take the drive for it, which is great. So I play a lot out at vineyards. I'm very blessed in that respect. I've done that for a number of years. And when my original material gets released, I drop an original song out there in live performance. But a lot of it is covers. But I do change the arrangements a little bit to make it more fun and make it more unique and more original. So that's the scene that I attend to. I know there's other scenes on Long Island. I was in the hard rock original scene for 10 years in my side project that was called Code Blue. I did that from 1990 to 1999, and we just released a compilation called That Train Has Sailed by Code Blue.
Okay.
And you can find...
Nice.
Thank you. That was our admission that it didn't go as well as we would have liked. That train has sailed, kids. That was me and Nick Oliver. We were like the Steely Dan of hard rock on Long Island. Two guys that always had other people behind us for the drums and the bass.
Nice.
And we loved doing it. And we got critical acclaim. But in the time when we were active, 1990 to 1999, the higher we rose, We just couldn't get beyond a certain
Right.
point. And we didn't know it at the time, but it was because Napster and the dissolution of record labels all breaking up that we couldn't go further. We were trying to get signed to a label, not understanding that record labels were going out of business.
We're going away. Yeah.
I mean, we were looking for money from them. They were looking for money from us. It was ridiculous. So we wrapped up in 1999, and I just continued doing solo work and covers and arrangements and everything I could do, and wound up playing these really cool gigs, mainly out east, which is great.
Right.
That's me, you know.
Yeah, the eastern end of Long Island is just great. And the one thing, and I was asked about this I was a guest on another podcast. What do you think makes up the Long Island sound? And I would say it's the diversity of Long Island itself, not only in the people and the music, but the areas. I mean, you can go out on the east end of Long Island, and it's kind of like New England-like. And you can be on the South Fork, and it's very Caribbean-like to a certain extent. And you could be in Nassau County, and it's a whole new world. Or you can be in Brooklyn, which is the center of the world right now. So it's an interesting place to listen to music, and the diversity from everything from reggae and ska to hard rock to Americana and folk. It goes, and hip hop.
Yeah.
It goes really all over the place.
I mean, it's the American thing. It's a melting pot. Everybody is here. Everybody's mixing, and you're learning and growing, hopefully. If you're brave, or you could be in a tribute act,
right.
Which I'm going to punk on those guys because I'm sorry. I respect the talent it takes to do it, and the hours you put in to learn the solos. But, if you're an audience member and you're supporting tribute acts in a big way, understand that if a tribute act is there on Friday, an original act can't be there. If you,
right. No, I agree with I agree with you 100%, George.
If you want the next Billy Joel, you have
my-
to make space for it. Billy was in Attila, and that didn't go anywhere. Billy was in the Hassles, that didn't go very far. You know what I mean? But he kept at it, and because of that, we have 52nd Street, The Stranger, Nylon Curtain. We have all of that because we made space for it to happen. And with all due respect to cover bands, and I always say that, my act is a tribute to all of the tribute acts.
That's a
Thank
good
you very
line.
much.
That's a great line. And, if we're going to jump on this too, and I agree with you, my friend Mike Nugent told me, he goes, yeah, it's the era of the tribute band. And he said that with some remorse in his voice. And you bring up a good point. When there's a tribute band, you can't play anywhere else, as far as original music. And then you got the money aspect of it, where a venue is going to try to pull in the Journey fans who will reminisce all night long over the
I love
same
it,
song
and I cover
40,000
Journey.
times.
When I play live, I'll cover a Journey song, But I'm not going to do a whole night of Journey, and I'm not going to act like Steve Perry. I'm not going to impersonate Neil Schon. I have too much respect for them as artists. I respect their parts. If I'm going to play their parts, I'm going to play their parts as immaculately as I can to their intent. But I'm not going to impersonate them, and I'm not going to jive you guys that I'm Journey or that I am somebody I'm not. A big part of what I do as George A. Barry, that's my full working name, out live, George A. Barry. A big part of what I am is authenticity. I am not a bullcrap artist. This is authentically me. And if I say something stupid, it's because maybe sometimes I'm an idiot. But I don't know everything. Yeah, I don't. I know maybe two things in my life. Music, a little bit about animals, not too much more. But I am real, and I'm not going to jive you guys. And I think that's the right way to go, because otherwise, playing this music and trying to bring it across with, like we were talking about before, divinity, stuff like that, I don't think that happens when you're doing the jive. I don't think that happens when you're so busy being false. I don't think it happens. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong. So I'm not such a fan of that stuff. I'm not.
Hey, let's talk about this. Tell me, George, about what you've got. Look like a really busy schedule. What do you've got coming up in the summer where you're going to be playing, so people can go meet you? Out
So
on the
funny
island,
that
or
you should
wherever you're
ask.
playing.
I just happen to have
Oh,
a listing
surprise!
of these are just the July dates. Daddy likes to work. Let's see.
And by the way, also we'll have the list of the dates in the description of this podcast episode. And then, of course, you can go to George's website as well. So tell us what we got, George.
Coming up, we are playing every single Wednesday for the month of July at Billy's by the Bay in Greenport, New York. And that's from 5 to 8 p.m.
Well.
Every Wednesday in July 2023. And we're also playing like this Friday, July 7th at Puglisi Vineyards, 3 to 7. That's a Friday night, 3 to 7, July 7th. The next day, we're at Pindar Vineyards, 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, July 8th. The next day, Sunday, we're at Jason's Vineyard, 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. And on and on and on. For the full listing, georgeabarry.net. That's the source of all of the information, fresh. And if there's a new song, it goes there first and later to the streaming services. Okay, if you want it in fullest fidelity and first, georgeabarry.net, and later on, the streaming services get it after it's been out for a while.
Wonderful. Hey, let's talk about the last song you brought to the table. No pun intended again. One Last Ballad. Tell me about that, and we'll let the audience hear that.
Yeah. Not to be too serious, but,
okay.
As we walk around this world, we realize we're not here forever. We're here for a certain limited period of time, which is why while I'm here, I'm trying to do something good, trying to raise up the people doing original art, try to help the people, have a good day out at the vineyards or a restaurant and stuff like that. And I kept having for a little while a nagging thought about what would be the last song I would ever write. What would that be like? And I kind of put myself in that position. And it was a metaphor for like when you're at a gig and you're loving the band, like Bon Jovi, and they've played all their songs. I mean, it's just been a fantastic night, 2 hours of amazing music, and the energy is fantastic. You feel like you're brothers to the people right next to you and sisters to the people right over there. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, it's like the end of the gig. What else is left? And then all of a sudden, if it's Bon Jovi, you start to hear the opening notes. I'm a cowboy, on a stale horse I ride, As soon as you hear those opening notes, you're like, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's that, I just want one more ballad. I just want one more song. That's, excuse me for my passion. I'm really into this. That's the feeling I was trying to put into the song. And that's just a metaphor for, when we shuffle off this mortal coil. We all want one more ballad, And hopefully I translated the song across in a way that communicates that feeling that you never want these beautiful summer nights to end.
Let's listen to One More Ballad. Enjoy, everyone.
Say these feelings never last too long, but we ain't leaving till they play one more song, one more ballad. We don't wanna go home, we don't wanna be alone, so one more ballad. Summer nights all seem short these days, but we'll stay round until the darkness fades. One more ballad. We don't wanna go home, we don't wanna be alone, so one more ballad. Waxing clever, but I know this night will last forever, ever.
George, you're one of the most interesting interviews I've had, and I'm glad we've really jumped into some more controversial and, we're real about the music industry, because a lot of people, as far as the audience, really don't understand how much of a struggle it is to do original music, to survive, and not knowing what's around the corner. And, we touched on it earlier. It takes balls to do what you do and be a musician and be true to your art and true to yourself and entertain us. And I've always said this. I've always said I've been enamored by singer-songwriters who are able to articulate what I'm feeling in my soul and my heart. Yeah. And when I can go out and hear that, it's really something special. So
I completely agree.
I really thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, we've got so much to dive into. I really look forward to seeing you when I go out on the North Fork. When you see a white-haired guy, walking up to you, you're going to hopefully remember me. And everybody, tell us the website again, George, that the people can go to find your work.
Everything about George A. Barry is to be found at georgeabarry.net. And I don't ask for your date of birth or anything else. You could go there free. I'm not going to download you with cookies. I don't do any of that nonsense. I also have 2 Facebook accounts. You can look for me up on Facebook. You can look for me on Instagram, George Barry New York. But to keep it simple, just go to georgeabarry.net. And through there, you can get to everything else I have, downloads, merch, performance schedule, everything. And thank you, Steve, for having me and being a true supporter and patron of the arts. Without people like yourself shining a light on the next Billy Joel, the next Pat Benatar from Lindenhurst, New York, it doesn't happen without people like Steve Yusko. And a lot of times it's guys like Steve Yusko that don't get the credit. We don't,
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
I mean it. I mean, we wouldn't have so many of these artists were it not for somebody who constantly, and it's work to make all of this happen. So I thank you sincerely, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, brother. Until next time, take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.